Nick. One thing I forgot to tell you is that when I was 12 years old, you guys remember that? Yes? Yep. When I was 12 years old and I listened to Eminem all the time, the song that I would listen to used to talk about his stepfather hit him, so he socked him back and broke his nose. His house is a broken home. He has no control. He just lets his emotions go. And I remember just like listening to this over and over again and just like finding purpose and identity in what he was talking about, because I remember that I was hurting, that I wanted to sock my dad in the nose and break it. Like, I was the kid that wasn't allowed to have dyed hair or wasn't allowed to have earrings or wasn't allowed to do all these things. And I remember like finding that identity in that song, and it meant the world to me. It's like what gave me life at the time. And it's so funny that many of us as entrepreneurs, we actually have motivations that are disguised. It looks like anger to other people. Like, you remember me yesterday? I got pretty excited. Like, kind of seemed like I was angry, huh? Have you guys ever had that before where you're like excited, but people think you're mad? It's like a common thing of a D personality. When Chris was talking about the DISC test, D personalities typically come across and show their excitement as anger. So when Amanda hears me and I'm like, dude, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, you know what, honey? I'm going to murder it today. I'm going to go slit some throats. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm going to help so many people today. I can't wait. I'm going to slit all their throats today. Amanda's like, do good on stage. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to murder all of them. For some reason, that just like really fires me up. So for this portion, being able to be here with you guys, there's many things that we could talk about, and there's many things that we could go down a deep rabbit hole of, but my goal is to really make everything contextual to you guys. This is one of the benefits of having even a smaller room and having our elite and accelerator, is because we can really focus in on what's the outcome that everyone wants from the event, and we can really hit on every single thing. And of course, I could jump into some tactic around how to create and launch a podcast and get over 100 5-star reviews in under 30 days and become ranked #1. I could show you guys how you can throw a live event that makes millions of dollars. I could show you guys how you can close hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of high-ticket items over the phone. We could like go down and deep into these different things. But truly what I found, as we had talked about yesterday, is how many of you guys know one thing right now that you should be doing already, but for some reason, like, you're just not doing it? And by the way, just so you could say you wrote one note from this talk, you're supposed to, if you're talking and speaking, always raise your left hand if you're the speaker, because almost all of you guys here are right-handed. How many right-handed people are there? And there's a better chance of you raising your hand if I mirror exactly what you're doing. If I raise my left hand, y'all are raising your right hand. Just so I had to call myself out there, because I'm still learning, you know. Even when I'm doing this thing, I'm sitting here like, dang it, I just raised my right freaking hand. So one of the ways that I do that is actually I put the clicker in my right hand always. So I never raise my right hand, I always raise my left instead. Is that pretty cool? Yeah. There you go. Now you at least got one note from me before I go into this other stuff. No, I was kidding. So what I found is that we can go deeper into education, if you guys want to do that, or we can go deeper into some implementation. But ultimately, implementation doesn't come down to, here's how you do this. Let me show you on a whiteboard exactly how to do this thing. Because again, people know and they have fitness plans. There's a reason why all the information is out there in the world, and we're past the information age. Now, even when I did health and fitness, I would tell people, listen, man, like, you can Google this all on the internet, but why have you not done it yet? That's the question. So it's not going to be through scribbling on a whiteboard, even though I probably will do that, but it'll come through actually figuring out what are the things that are holding you back. And luckily, I've had a great mentor in the room that I'm actually going to bring up as well, because and I'm not going to do it yet, but I was reflecting on what are the key things in my life that I've taken away, stories that have been ingrained in me from a little kid that have transformed my life. And even though you guys have heard that my dad and I had big falling outs, when I wrote in my book, I realized something really specific. I realized that the majority of things in our life, and one of the big breakthroughs that I had, was getting over things in my past that were holding me back. So these were things that in today's day and age, we see this as triggers in men. And when men get triggered in a certain area, they go back to the original time that they had a trauma that caused the trigger. And because they go back to that time, they act like whatever age they were in that moment. And their brain hasn't been able to develop past that one moment that they had. Does that make sense? So let's say if someone gets triggered. Has anyone ever seen anyone get triggered before? Describe it to me. Tell me one story. It's funny. Dang, you're not triggering the same people as me.
You can see it in their eyes.
You could see it in their eyes.
They just changed who they are.
Change who they are. Okay. So you're telling your trigger. I like it. How did it make you feel? What made you feel insecure? What did you think was going to happen?
I just didn't know it was going to happen.
Okay. But what did you think was going to happen? Because if you didn't think of anything, you wouldn't have.
Like he came up and said hello, and I was like, hey, and like just as much as I was like, hey.
Yeah. So think about it again. What did you think was going to happen?
Maybe he was going to take my girlfriend.
Yeah. Why do you feel that way?
I don't know.
Tell me right now.
Preschool crush.
Yeah. And what happened?
Nothing really happened.
So how did it make you feel? Yeah. How'd you feel?
I just went, oh, okay.
So you didn't feel anything. So if we were to keep going down that rabbit trail, could you see how we could figure out why did you keep your feelings to yourself? And how have you continued to do the same thing over and over again? And let's give him an applause for even sharing, first off. I appreciate it, man. And I'll share some of my stuff with you guys. But one of the big things that happened to me when I was 18 years old that I talk a little bit about in the book that you guys all got. And I remember thinking, like, what's the things that I could do that will help me out forever? And I realized that there was things in my life that were holding me back. Say, holding me back. Like past things that had happened to me that I was looking through that lens. And many times this would be described, again, as going back to your child brain. Like what you were like back then. So an example of that I'm glad my dad's not here right now, was my dad. I remember even growing up, of course, it happened all the time. But one of the most recent times that this happened is Amanda and I. Hey, Amanda. Hey, Annie. She came in like right when I said it. It's like summoned her. Amanda and I, when I lost everything after we had been in network marketing for a year, we lived in a condo in San Diego. I had moved back to San Diego because I thought I was going to build my team there. We were doing, that team right there was doing like $30,000 a month in revenue, and I was like, oh, I'm going to build this thing up, and we're going to blow up, and everything's going to be amazing. And I remember coming down to San Diego. That's when my dad told me he was going to divorce my stepmom. And then in one day, we lost all of those people to one person that went up to him and said, Nicholas makes you work so hard in this network marketing company. You just join our network marketing company, and you'll just make money just from being there because it's brand new and you'll be at the top. Anyone ever heard that before? It's brand new. You're going to be at the top, man. So that all of them left. And that was my fault, of course. Like I should have been a better leader, but I lost everything in that moment. And I remember having to move out of this place, and actually Yost was there to help me try to move in the back of, what's the exact definition of that place? A halfway home?
Yeah, it's a foster home, group home.
Group home. So he tried to help me move in the backyard in a small little square home of a foster home because I was literally the only person on planet Earth, or at least in San Diego at the time, that was that broke and not a felon. Like that's the only, like there was no one else who could live there because anyone else who's as broke as me had other issues that was going on. So they were like, oh, maybe we can get you in. So I remember he goes, my budget was $500 a month. That's all I had to be able to live off of. And I remember we went in there, we negotiated with him to $600 a month. And I remember feeling pretty good after that. He's like, well, I'm going to figure out with the state, we'll see what's going to happen. And I remember leaving there. I went to a live event with my wife. We were going to go get like our business back. We were going to go make money. We were going to go get inspired. And I remember sitting there and I was like feeling like things were about to go the right way. Like you guys feel like things are about to go the right way for you? Well, guess what? I got an email while I was at that event. I looked at it and it said, hey, sorry, the state denied you being able to live here. And so because of that, you're not going to be able to come and live in this house when you come back to San Diego. And I had to sit there and be like, wow, I'm so broke, I can't afford one place in San Diego. And now I have to go tell my wife that we have no place to live when we get back from this trip. Say that sucks. Yeah, it did suck. So I remember living at my dad's house. My dad let us live there for a month. And we triggered him. Say triggered. Triggered him. I remember I had my phone plugged into the wall and a phone charger, and we were in the kitchen of his house, and he had just come back from a wild night at the bar, and he was all amped up, and he was freaking out because I guess he just had gotten into a fight, and he was just coming down from it, and he had just skidded out of there at the right time, and he came home, and my wife and I were just talking, and we were like, you know what? It's so interesting, the difference of people that shop during the day compared to at night. Because we were seeing everyone go in there during the day. And I'm like, what does everyone do in San Diego during the day shopping in their sweatpants? I'm like, how is everyone out shopping in the middle of the day? Doesn't anyone do anything around here? And then the people that shop at night are all professional and they just got off work and all these things. And boom, my dad gets triggered. He's like, you ungrateful fucking piece of shit. He's like, you're not grateful for fucking anything. You don't do shit with your life. You're not doing shit. You got your shit plugged into the wall. You know how much money this thing's costing right here, plugged into the wall without anything plugged into it? And for 3 hours straight, he ripped into us with me and Amanda right there in the kitchen. Did we do anything wrong? Like, was there anything like that was upsetting? Like, literally, it could go either way with the trigger, right? It's like, either he could have been like, yeah, I know, isn't that crazy? Those people just shop during the day. Or, boom, he could get triggered and went off on us for 3 hours. And I found in my life that there was other things, like that's an extreme example of triggering, but I found in my life that there was times that I was getting triggered by different things, that a fear would pop up. It's almost like you have PTSD of a certain phase of your life. I know that Yost was telling me that even when he gets on plane flights sometimes, because one of the first times he was on a plane, he had to jump out of it in the middle of the night with a parachute. The first time he ever skydived was in the middle of the night with a parachute that you packed, right? Okay, good. I was like, oh my gosh. Or else he wouldn't be here. And still to this day, sometimes when he gets on an airplane, his heart starts beating. Because his mind knows that he's on the airplane, but his body responds to the fact that it's like, remember that one time that this happened? And the body starts having a response even though the mind's not even aware of what's going on. And I saw this happening in my life. I remember when I was 5 years old, I was playing hide and go seek, and I locked myself into a dryer, like a washer and dryer. And I remember my brother had this really cute girl, which is weird to say now because I think she was like 11 and I was 5. But I thought she was so cute. And my brother was 6 years older than me. They were all playing hide and go seek, and I was trying to be that cool kid, trying to be accepted. I was laying there in that washer and that dryer, and 30 minutes later, no one had come. So finally, I got out, and I realized that all the kids had just gone on doing something else, and I was just stuck in the dryer all alone. And I felt so rejected by that girl. Not my brother, not the guys, but the girl. So freaking angry that I had like one of those little baseball bats that you get from the Padres game that are like this big, super small, and someone was like, you should go hit her with it. And I was like so angry, I could never do it, but I was like, I wanted to so bad. I was like, oh. And that literally triggered me. Like, it was something that I saw, that I was afraid of rejection. When I would work with clients, I always thought that they would leave. When people would ask for help, I'd always think that something bad was going to happen. I always thought like everything was going to end up being super negative. That was where my mind went every single time. Can anyone relate? Hey, hey man, can I talk to you about something? Can I talk to you about something?
Yeah.
Like, don't you think already that that's going to be like something negative? I still haven't got over this one. People come up to me all the time. They go, hey, can I talk to you about something? I really loved what you said yesterday. And I'm like, you asshole. I've been freaking out about this conversation the entire time. And I realized that those triggers were holding me back. And as I went back in time and I started figuring out all these different things, I started seeing different areas of my life where when we have a quote that says, I don't want to write it. It says, pressure doesn't create weakness, it only exposes it. And you can, I would write that one down. Because then you can use it too, and then you'll sound like so amazing, because I stole it from someone else as well, so don't worry.
It's underlined in your book.
It's underlined in the book?
I underlined it in your book.
Thanks, man. What page? 115.
Be curious to see how it goes.
Pressure doesn't create weakness, it only exposes it. One thing I've always loved about Arnold Schwarzenegger, how many of you guys know Arnold Schwarzenegger? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Some of you guys in the back don't know Arnold?
It's a friend of my mom's.
Zach. Everyone hit the person next to you and say, wake up. Tell him that if you don't, I'm going to sick Yost on you. And Ben Davidson, it's attack dog. Rips arms off. Nah. This is for you. Yeah. Pressure doesn't create weakness, it only exposes it. And what I love about Arnold Schwarzenegger that taught me so much is so many of us think that our problems are so unique and the things that we're going through are so unchangeable that we try to hide the problems that we have. So when I was overweight, I would just wear a sweatshirt every single day. Why? Because it hid my problem. It made me feel more confident. Rather than focusing on solving the actual root problem, I just decided to try to cover up the symptom because I didn't know how to change it. Yet Arnold Schwarzenegger, inside of his autobiography, or whatever those things are called, is that what it's called? Autobiography? Is it biography if they're dead? Someone else writes it. Thank you. See, you don't have to be smart to make money, remember? Inside of his book, he talks about that when he would go and work out, instead of being like everyone else, showing their biceps or their chest or whatever's the best part of their body, which is what almost everyone in the world does, you'll see it now that I said it, he would cover up every area of his body that was good and only expose the areas of weakness. Calves. Why? Not only was it his weakness, he knew that it could be changed. So he wasn't afraid of focusing on a weakness because he knew it could be changed. And so many of us, we cover up weaknesses in our life because we truly don't believe that that weakness can be changed. And we take it on as an identity inside of ourselves. When I was overweight, I had two options. I could cover it up or I could fix the problem. I could figure out what the root cause of that problem was. You guys cool with that? Yeah? So what I did, and this is too long to be able to go down this deep road, but I want to give you guys a tool, is that one of the tools that I used was that I would sit there every single day, and anytime that I felt like pressure. Say pressure. Anytime I felt pressure, strengthening, realizing that gold in itself is unrefined. There's the same amount of gold in an unrefined ore as there is when it's refined, except for one's just more valuable. All the value that you guys have in the world isn't going to come from someone from stage. It's people pulling out things inside of you that are unpure and showing the pure pieces of gold that you guys have. But that process is hot. Say hot. It's refining. Refining freaking hurts. Sharpening hurts. Being the pencil hurts. Oh, it looks terrible. Being the pencil hurts. Yet allowing the triggers, the impurities, the things that you go through to come up and take that time to write that down and reflect on that moment and see, was there a time, what is the earliest time of my life that I've experienced that same exact feeling before? When was the last time I felt that same exact feeling before? And I'd go back, and I've worked with so many people in the room in this area, and we've had instant breakthroughs. Like, you've seen people that have a stuttering problem that don't stutter anymore. Anyone seen that before? This is the process that's used for this. And instant breakthroughs where what happens is when you have a trauma in that moment, when you start getting triggered, when you have pressure that exposes a weakness in you, just as if you had pipes in this building and the pressure went up in the pipe would only explode in the very weakest part of the pipe. The whole pipe doesn't disintegrate. The one weak spot that was always there that didn't get exposed until the pressure raised up in the room, that was already there. And when that happens, you think back and you go, when was the first time, the very first time, the very origin of when I felt this exact problem? And if you can pinpoint that problem, and instead of thinking about that thing from that one time, so one of my moments was when my dad told me I'd never be the best. You guys remember that? When my dad said I would never, do you guys remember that? Yes? My dad said I would never be the best. And I thought that when he told me that he didn't believe in me. I said, Dad, I want to be the best in the world. And he said, Nicholas, you'll never be the best. And what he meant by that in his mind was that if you live your life just trying to be the best, you'll be unhappy because on any given day, there will be someone who beats you at something. Even in the thing that you're the best at, you can't be the best every single day. I didn't know this. So I looked at my dad and thought, you don't believe in me. I'm the one who believes in me. You don't believe in me. And then I look back in my life, and I remember my dad, when I was depressed in 8th grade, laying on my sofa every single day, watching Animal Planet, of all things. He kept like pushing me outside. He kept getting me to go skateboard and making me bike ride. And I'd sit there like crying my eyes out, not wanting to do it. And I was like, man, this guy's such a jerk. And then all of a sudden, I go back in time to that exact moment. I go back from the perspective that I have today. Write that down. Go back in time with the perspective that you have today. And I sat there in that moment and realized something that shifted my mind around that subject forever. My perception and everyone's perception is reality. So no matter what, if a kid feels something, that feeling is still real. Do you guys agree with that? Yeah. My experience was real. Even if it wasn't reality, it was my perception of reality, and perception is reality. You guys good with that? Yeah. So I went back in time, and I remember the motorcycle tracks that I'd go to my dad with, and my dad would say, we're not leaving this track until you jump every single jump here. And I would cry, and I would wail, and I'd be so scared and fearful. And then when my dad tells me I'll never be the best, I think, my dad does not believe in me from all these experiences and the perception that I had. And it clicked for me, and I realized, oh my gosh, I was afraid. I didn't believe in me. My dad would never want me to get hurt, so he pushed me because he believed in me more than I believed in myself. Isn't that crazy? Could you imagine having a whole perception of your life shift in one moment from one exercise where I thought my dad never believed in me? I always thought I was the underdog that had no talent, no skill, no ability that anyone could see, to in one moment realizing that I had it all wrong. But because I had a trigger that I had never fixed and noticed every time the pressure exposed that weakness, I just dealt with that one moment right then. And I never noticed what kept causing that trauma, like what kept causing that exposure. And the best part about this is when you just keep fixing problems as they come up, it fixes that problem. It does. If you have a conflict, how many of you guys have ever had like someone who just consistently gets triggered by something and they fix it and they say sorry and then they do it again? Anyone ever had that happen? Because when you fix the problem, it just fixes that problem, but it doesn't fix the root problem. Yet when you fix the root problem, it actually clears out all the problems that have happened before then. So you can be one of these people that tries to navel gaze and look at every single thing you've done wrong in your life. Or you could take the triggers that you get on the inside of you when things happen, when you get in scarcity, when you get in indecision, when you become paralyzed and you get paralysis of analysis. These are all triggers. When you get depressed, when things get you down, when you feel rejected, when you feel shame. When you feel these things, you can allow them to go back to the key source, and if you focus on the source, go back in time in your head and visualize that moment and step in with the clarity that you have now, maybe having a friend help you with this, you can clear out every single moment from then on to be able to walk in power and freedom from that moment. You guys cool with that? Yes? Yes. So the other thing that I did that changed, I told you guys that I was going to tell you what gave me confidence. When I had no confidence, I thought, and maybe you guys can relate as well, I thought, how can I go out there and have confidence as if I've done something if I haven't done the thing yet, but how am I supposed to do the thing if I don't have any confidence before I do it? Anyone ever felt that before? Yeah. Only a few? You know, it's like, man, I would love to teach realtors, but like I haven't really sold as much as this other person. Oh, I'd love to train train dog trainers, but like there's other better dog trainers out there. There's other people that are better than this. The first thing is that one, your story is uniquely you. Just as you have a different fingerprint than everyone in this room, your story is not devalued because it's not as good as someone else's. I only lost 60 pounds. I told my lie all the time, the lie to myself. Other people have lost 100. Other people are more fit than me. Other people have done X, Y, Z, yet those people that I can reach are different than what other people can reach. But I still had this question. I was like, how can I get up here if I always am going to need to improve? How will I ever be show ready? How will I ever be able to speak from stage? How many of you guys want to speak from stage one day? Good, almost everyone. How many of you guys want to speak on video and get your message out there? And then show me one more time, how many of you guys feel like you really have a good message on the inside of you that you feel like you need to share with the world? Not because you want fame or any of these other things. You guys are already like hands up in the air. Not because you want fame, but because you feel obligated to share it with the world. Almost everyone. So you guys want to know how you can gain confidence today to be able to do that? So here's one thing that I'm really jealous that God can do that I've had to learn how to do. He sees the beginning from the end. Could you imagine that? Like, imagine right now, if you guys could all do this with me, if you go back 1 year from today, back in time, can you picture who you were 1 year ago? Say yes if you got it. Yes. Right now, if you could go back in time just 1 year, do you think that you know more now than you did then? Are you more equipped? Are you more powerful? Are you more confident? Okay. Let's go back 5 years. I was 22 and I was cleaning carpets. The only value I could bring to my dad was cleaning carpets for $1,200 a month. Now I did one thing for my dad that generated $10,000 extra revenue in a week. Where were you 5 years ago? Are you more confident now? Are you a better person now? Are you smarter now? If you went back in time, would it be a lot easier to live those last 5 years? Knowing what you know now? Okay. Let's go back 10 years. How old were you? No, just kidding. 10 years. What were you like 10 years ago? I was 17 years old. I was obese.
I almost got kicked out of school.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know Elon was such a rebel. My gosh. I almost got kicked out of school.
I'll tell you the story afterwards.
Yeah. If you guys didn't know, he's actually just a straight up PIMP. He was like pimping kids out of school and all. I'm just kidding. I'm playing with you, Elon. He just sold drugs. 10 years in the past, I was overweight. Do you think the education that I have now, that I'd be able to change my situation? If I could go back to 17 years old, do you think that I could get to where I'm at quicker? I'd have more confidence. Would I be not confident in myself at 17 if I could go back with what I know now? Would I be not confident in what I know? But I don't have the results yet. I'm 17 years old. I'm fat.
You have the mindset.
Because I know how to do it, right? Cool. 20 years. I was like 7. Dude, if I could go back to when I was 7 years old, I've always dreamed of this. Like, I'd be such a badass. I would know everything. Could you imagine? I'd be 7 years old. So think about that for you. 20 years in the past, knowing what you know now, and you go back in time, would you be able to do life better at a different level? Would you be more confident based on where you're at today? Yes? Cool. So if this works that way, then it also works in the opposite way. Not going to do it here, but you can do it at your house, because you said implementation. You can implement this, but this is a mindset shift that will change your life forever. I didn't dream up the cars that I wanted. I didn't dream up the things that I wanted, but this truly changed my life forever. I would go on podcasts. I would get invited to speak on stage. I would speak to clients, and I would do all these different things. And each time that I did them, I always felt like an imposter. Who am I to tell people what to do? I haven't gotten all the results that I want to get yet. How am I supposed to speak confidently about this? I'm so young. I've only been married this long. I only have a kid on the way. There's always going to be an excuse of why you can't do something. But how much is that helping the world? Yeah, it's not helping at all. So one day I said, I need to figure out a solution to this problem. And it worked for me. Do you guys want to know what it was? Yeah. So I remember laying on the carpet. Everyone get up and lay. I'm just kidding. Don't lay down. I remember laying down on the carpet and turning on music. And I've always been someone that really I've never felt really chosen or called to anything. But if you believe in God in any way, shape, or form, I remember just for some reason I like to put God's back against the wall. Like sometimes I'd get up and I'd start praying at 3 a.m. because I'm like, who the hell else is praying? You got to listen to me now. You know what I mean? You know, I'd go places and I'd be like, I want to be led. I'm like, what other bitches around here that actually want to be led by you? You might as well use me. I just started going up to people and telling them what I thought God was saying to them, because I was like, you know what? You better start speaking through me, or else I'm going to keep saying stuff. So I'm here. Use me. Speak through me. I put God against the wall. I'm like, I'm going to be out here spreading this message. You might as well use me to speak through. And so what I did is I lay there on the carpet and I said, I'm not going to freaking get up. I don't care if I die in here of thirst and hunger. I'm not going to get up until I can see what my future is going to look like. And I sat there and thought 1 year out, 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out. Not just seeing it, but emotionalizing it. A goal that's not emotionalized is just a wish. I'd write that down too. That's pretty, yeah. A goal that's not emotionalized is just a wish. You've heard it before. If I were to cut up a lemon, everyone's reading it out loud. Intense. A goal that's not emotionalized is just a what? It's a wish. It's a hope. In the American definition of hope. The real definition of hope is a confident expectation of something happening. So I laid down on the ground, and I didn't just think about it. I didn't just write it down. But just as if you guys right now, just picture right now in your hand that you have like a big, huge wedge of lemon. You guys got it? Pick up that lemon. I'm about jogging your information. You got your lemon? You got your lemon? You guys got your lemons? If you got your lemons, say lemons. Lemons. Dope. And now picture it. Can you see it? Yep. Can you see it in your hand? Yep. Okay, cool. Now grab that lemon and put it in your mouth and squeeze it and start to taste it. Delicious. Picture it. Experience it. See it. Feel it. You feel your mouth tingling. Oh, like every taste bud's going off. You're like, oh, it's sour. How many of you guys right in this moment even, right now, your mouth started watering? Where's the lemon? Where is it? There's no lemon. But whatever happens in your mind is reality. Reality. Whatever happens in your mind is a reality. It's more reality than the things that are around you. And for the transformation to happen in your life, start internal and then change your external world. Your external world will never change to change you. You will always change to change this external world. And what I did is I laid there on the ground, thought of what life was going to be like 20 years from now, and actually got to emotionalize it and feel it on the inside. And this will only work for the people that actually sit there and say, I will not leave until this happens. And I felt that emotion. I saw myself on a huge yacht. I'm sitting out there on the front of the yacht, and I saw all my family in the back of the boat. Stepmom, stepdad, mom, dad, relatives, 50 grandmas because everyone's divorced, and I saw them all in the back of the boat. Anyone else have those kinds of families? Like, freaking I don't even know my grandma's name because she's like so far removed. And they're all stuck on the boat. Why? Because I think I always had a fear that people were going to leave me. No one can leave a boat when we're in the middle of the ocean unless you want to swim back. So everyone was stuck on that yacht. And I was overlooking, and I saw myself there, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, man, like, what is that guy like? Is he anxious right now? No, he's not. If he got to like go and speak somewhere, would he be confident in what he's saying? Yes or no? Yes. Like, that guy's accomplished everything. I was looking at the money he had made, the impact he had made, the skill sets he had created. Does he care about what anyone in this room thinks of him if he were to come up here and speak? No, because he's already done it. And I started emotionalizing and feeling and actually experiencing the emotions of what it was going to feel like then. The same way that you guys did it in the past, but you're just doing it based on memory. But actually thinking of it in the future, if done correctly and emotionalized, actually will have the same exact effect as memory. You guys cool with that? Yeah? So you can actually have this memory that's actually in the future that you can experience today, that's a place that you're going to go. And that's why I can speak so confidently of where the company, where we're going as BDB, and create that reality because I've already seen it. And I laid there and I experienced this, and I made a decision in that moment. And literally, you can track exactly when my life changed and the business changed from this exact moment. I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to switch spots with that guy. And the guy 20 years from now, down the road, that's on the yacht, the family behind him, that knows he's confident in what he believes and says, that knows he's confident in leading people, that knows he's confident in what he says, that literally doesn't care what anyone else thinks about what he says, because he knows he's going to win. If he, my future self, 20 years from now, were to come back in time 20 years, he would already know the beginning from the end. So if he were to step in my shoes, he would just sit here and be like, dude, you guys just wait and see. I already know what's going to happen, so I'm not worried about it the same way if you went back in time 20 years right now. Can you guys see this? You guys getting this? Yeah. And so that's all of a sudden when I would get on podcasts and I would anchor this to myself where every single day, even before I get up here, when I'm sitting in my hotel room before the first day, I anchor back to that moment of emotion and I go, okay, 20 years from now, self, All right, I see him. I see how he would act. I see how he would show up. I see that he wouldn't care about the fear. I see how he would speak and communicate. I see how he would serve because he doesn't need anything because he's already made it. I see that he would already know the future before it's even happened. I see the way that this is going to go down, and I go, cool. That's who I'm going to show up as today. Podcast, business, marriage, doesn't matter what it is. Like, how would he show up? And it's truly when I made my future self my current mentor. Not only that, I actually switched places with him. So many of us disqualify ourselves based on right now. Dude, where you're at isn't even the reality. What's reality is what's in your head. You're just allowing your external environment to dictate what you believe about yourself, rather than having a belief in yourself and telling your environment what's up. One more time. Let me tell you one time. So what I wanted to do as well is, one person that's changed my life definitely is a great friend of mine that's here. And I remember, like, what I am today is completely different than what I used to be like. Growing up, all I wanted was recognition. I just wanted people's approval. I wanted my dad's approval. I remember getting on my motorcycle as a kid, and I would go out there and I would jump jumps just like with the thought of my dad seeing me. I was just like, man, if he would just see me right now, he'd be so proud. I got to jump higher. I got to go faster. I'd get good at sports, and I'd be like, oh, man, if my dad could just see me, if he noticed this, if he could just see what was happening, he'd finally approve of me. And then in high school, I started wrestling my freshman year of high school. I would go out there, and we'd have all the workouts, full body workouts, and I would fake them every single day. Every day I'd fake the workout. And then every single time that the wrestling coach would tell us, hey, do you want a challenge for varsity spot? I would take that challenge. And I would go out there and I'd try to wrestle for varsity spot. And so I looked good in front of all my coaches, and everyone was so inspired because they thought that I was doing the work in private when I was really just doing the work in public. Yet the only work that matters is what's done in private, not what's done in public. This stuff right here doesn't matter. This isn't who I am. What defines who I am is what I do when none of you guys are watching. Because this is a very small part of my life. But back in high school, I legitimately spent 90% of my time BSing it and spending the 10% that I was in front of people acting like I was doing all the right things. So I'd always get gassed out in competition, but none of the coaches would say anything. They would see that I gave it all my effort. And I gave it everything I had, and I always challenged and stood up. Yet I met this man that showed me commitment. You can write down commitment, because the definition of commitment is doing what you said you were going to do after the feeling you said it in is past. If you feel like doing something, there's no reason to commit. Like, commitment doesn't matter in that moment. The reason why it's so important to commit while you're at events, to join BDB Accelerated, do whatever it is that you have to do to say to your goal, like, I'm going to do this, and having some type of thing that you commit to is because right now you feel like you can do it. How many of you guys feel like you can do a lot of stuff right now? You have the education, you have the network, you have the people, you have everything that you need right now. And then what happens when we leave? People go back to regular life and things happen, and the mindset goes back. And if we don't make a commitment, then we have nothing to stick to. Commitment is to do what you said you were going to do after the feeling you said it in is past. So you make a commitment, and then guess what? When you start doing stuff, you're not going to want to do it anymore. What do most people do? Quit. Okay, what else? What is it? Make excuses, backslide. But what's the definition of commitment?
Following through even when it sucks.
Yeah, because like you said you were going to do it. Like, this is the problem with today's generation. And this is why we're different in this room. How many people have told you they were going to do something and never did it? How much respect do you have for those people? Do you trust them? One of my friends, Yost, in the room, every time he's ever lent anyone money, one thing I loved about him is he's always like, I'll never see that again. Right? Even when he lent me money, when I paid him back, he was like, well, that's never happened before. And it wasn't a gift, it was a loan. Commitment is to do what you said you're going to do after the feeling you said it in. It's gone. And Tony Robbins says the best time to make a commitment is when you're in state. In what? State. In state. Because when you're out of state, you need that commitment to keep you accountable to do the things even when you don't want to do it anymore. Does that make sense? Yes? So I learned this through 3.5 years of working out at a Navy SEAL's house, 6-7 days a week. I saw people do workouts. My friends that would do workouts would talk big game, write it all up on the board, start the workout, get an hour in, and they'd be like, man, whew, that's good enough. Like, I got my workout in. Like, I did a whole hour. And I would see this guy. He'd go up, write something on the board, and if he was an hour in and he was halfway through, he would finish the rest of the workout, and then he'd be like, never going to do that again. But I made a decision and committed to something, so I followed through until it was done and then made a decision afterwards if I was ever going to do that again. Does that make sense? Yeah. This truly is how you build trust with yourself, but it's also the secret to success. So many of us make decisions while we're in state that we then don't keep ourselves accountable to when we're out of state. When we make a decision when we're in state, the reason for it is so that when you're going through crap and hell, you can then think back to why you made the decision in the first place. You can anchor yourself back to that moment and be like, well, I'm not stupid, so I made this decision for a reason, and I'm going to follow through on it because I committed. You what? And this was the biggest thing I learned from him. I actually saw him one time, one person, Navy SEAL as well, fall in a workout, and he fell on the ground, and all I could think about was like the Olympic athletes. You've seen those videos where they like pull a hamstring, and then they're limping, and someone comes up and like grabs them by the shoulder, and like they all cross the finish line together, and Goldcast makes a video out of it, and it goes viral. You seen those? And he's like got a pulled hammy, and everyone's like crying because like I can't believe that your dad would come to the side and like walk you across. And so I'm like, well, this is like high level athletes. I'm gonna go pick this guy up and I'm gonna help him go back to the house. I'm gonna be that guy. Like they're gonna love me for this. I go to pick him up and he's like, whoa, what the hell? Don't touch me. And I was like, what do you mean? Like you're all bloody and like all this stuff. And he's like, no, dude, like he just ran off, and I didn't know what to do. So he just ran off, finished the workout, and then cleaned himself up. And I was like, what's the deal? Like, what happened? And he was like, no, I need to finish my workout before I get cleaned up. Like, this isn't going to stop me from doing it. I made a commitment to do a workout. I'm going to finish it and then decide afterwards or finish whatever I need to do. So the funnier story of this is Yost has cameras on his house because he's a Navy SEAL. And secretly, he hopes someone breaks into his house so he could shoot him. True story. The one time someone broke into his house with a gun, he wasn't home. I remember that story. How sad, right? Dang it. See? Yeah. Got to be ready for opportunity when it comes. Well, I remember seeing this camera video because they have lots of funny bloopers. You could imagine everyone being on camera all day. People do some stupid stuff. But Yost, even though he's a Navy SEAL, he's not very coordinated at all. Skateboard, motorcycle, bicycle, it's not his thing. And so he had this dog, Blazer, amazing dog. Blazer needed to be walked all the time, so Yost was like, oh, cool, I'm going to get on a skateboard. I'm seeing this all on the camera, showing it to everyone. He gets on the skateboard, and everyone's out there outside in your front yard watching. And the dog starts pulling him, and he goes off the curb, gets wheel bite, stops the board, and he face plants, and his face is all bloody. Have you ever been in those moments before where you're just like, oh, shit? Everyone just say it, oh, shit. And he face plants, and his face is all bleeding. What would you guys do in that moment? Cry. What else? You can cry. I don't care if you cry. That's fine. What else would you do? Feel embarrassed. Feel embarrassed is a good one. I'd feel embarrassed too. Give up, stop. I mean, what's the point? You just fell. You're like, oh, whatever. Let's go back inside and clean up. Anything else?
Hit the dog with a skateboard.
You wouldn't hit the dog with a skateboard. Too many dog lovers in here. Careful. Sell the skateboard. You would? I love it, man. So what I would have done back in the day with my old self, before I got mentors, before I got pushed, I would have totally just went back inside, maybe even told the story so that people would feel bad for me. But I saw this guy on the video camera get up, finish walking the dog, blood all down his face, came home, and then washed up. And even with the stupidest things, he made a commitment and he followed through. And it shifted my perspective of how I did life. People have been talking about the power of focus. Warren Buffett and Bill Gates were sitting at the same table once and got asked the number one key to success. They both wrote it down on a piece of paper. They passed it over without talking to each other at all. Guess what they wrote down? Focus. You can't focus without commitment.